Am I live? I don't even know. Let's see. Test, test, test. No. I am live. I wonder if. Let me see. All right. I'm just going to stream. Stream. Let's see if we have anybody join. I know this was kind of last minute. But not really. I release a video every Sunday. So we'll see if anybody shows up to the live stream. All right, I'm just streaming. I'm going to pull up. right, I'm gonna do a impromptu. Now that I know I can share my screen, that's cool. And I'm just through a little presentation on the trauma of money. And what we're gonna do is talk about how our thoughts, beliefs, and feelings about money are affecting our wealth. Um, by me, JAMILAH McCLUNEY. I'm a licensed fiduciary financial advisor, certified in the trauma of money, and the founder of Black Wealth Financial. So, a little bit about me. I've been an advisor for 16 years, graduated from Howard University, and I work in the intersection of financial planning and financial emotional wellness. Like I stated earlier, I'm the founder of Black Wealth Financial and I'm certified in the trauma of money. That's a credential that informs every client relationship that I build. And basically, my story. I became aware of what money was really early. My parents owned beauty supply stores, hair salons, and barbershops back in the early 80s. My father was in the military, and after he got out, he came back to his hometown in North Carolina and put all of his siblings through barber college, cosmetology school, put my mom through cosmetology school, and opened up these salons in the area, North Carolina, South Carolina, all at one time. And he was a little ahead of his time back in the day. Like he had non-compete disclosures where if any of his stylists left, they couldn't open up within a certain radius around his businesses. And he's actually credited with bringing the Jerry curl to North Carolina, which is wild. But very, very successful business. Like I said, his siblings, not all of them, but a few of his siblings worked there with him. He'd have lines and lines of customers that only wanted him. They would wait for him all day until he came. He didn't manage his businesses very effectively. Even my mom, that's how she met him. She actually sat in his chair and became his client, and that's how they met. I'm actually going to pause a second and throw this on Facebook. So anybody is on Facebook and they want to come see what's going on over there, I'm gonna throw it up over there. The the link. So yeah, like I said, oh, while I'm putting this up here. Um, hold on a second. All right, I'm gonna go back to making this big again. Okay, so that's a little bit of the background. So, like I said, I was always hyper aware of money. My dad kept a pocket full of money. We always had new cars, and I was in private school and Montessori school and piano lessons, karate, all these extracurricular activities. I used to work in the work in the businesses, answering the phones. I don't know why they would let me answer the phone, spinning in the chairs and making a mess mostly. But it really taught me a lot about the importance of, I guess, and the empowerment of starting your own business and what it looks like when you don't have the proper financial structures in place. So, I am a licensed fiduciary financial advisor, certified in the trauma of money. I've been interviewed and featured in Yahoo Finance, CNBC, Fox News, and other publications. Some of my specialties lie in financial trauma, which we're going to talk about right now, tax mitigation, advanced tax mitigation strategies for those high earners who are receiving six-figure tax bills. And even after their CPA or their team does their magic, they're still stuck with a six-figure tax bill. That's where my team really shines. Wealth building, estate planning, and debt elimination in rapid, accelerated time so that we recapture and save a lot of the interest and payments that you would otherwise send to your credit card company or lenders. I also created a game called For the Love and Money. It's a 109 card financial conversation game for couples or those dating, specifically to have the conversations that people aren't really having about money. Um, a lot of conversation goes unsaid or unknown. You just kind of don't talk about it, you know, not really going deep enough or really understanding how the thoughts and beliefs and feelings around money have shaped somebody's behavior, shaped their mindset, shaped their actions. And then you get into relationships with these people, and then they come out and you find out about them kind of hidden, and it's a shock. It doesn't have to be a shock. I created this game so that you can have those conversations and find out early so you can know if it's something that you really want to continue or not. So, what I'm going to cover today and answer before we're done is what financial trauma actually is and what it's not, where it comes from and how it gets passed down, how our thoughts and beliefs about money shape every decision that we make, and how our feelings about money show up, often without us even realizing it, and what healing actually looks like, and what becomes possible after we have that healing. So financial trauma is really important to know. It's not always a dramatic event. It's the quiet accumulation of experiences, messages, and silences around money that shape how we feel, how we think, and how we behave with money long before we ever even earn our first dollar. A lot of us are learning these things kind of subconsciously and not even aware of what's happening. It's not just about money. These things live in the nervous system, in the body, and in beliefs form again before the income ever arrived, right? How you pick up these cues maybe from your family or your caregivers. You don't need a dramatic event to experience trauma of money. You don't have to have extreme poverty or some um, dire, hard financial struggle to experience the trauma of money. It could be in silence and tension and what was never said. That can shape just as powerfully as what actually happened if you experienced any of those poverty or traumatic events around money. It shows up in everyone. That's something that's important to know. It's not just high earners, they're not immune from it. The multimillionaires, the celebrities, the athletes, the professional athletes, people that you see that are making hundreds of millions and millions of, of dollars, they're not all of a sudden hitting a certain income and then they don't experience some of these trauma of money features or symptoms. The more income often means that more surface area for the pattern to run, right? It's just more money. You're dealing with the same situation, but now you're dealing with it with more money. I'm gonna check and see if anybody is here. They have any questions? They don't, because ain't nobody here yet. And that's fine. This is my first live. I just kind of wanted to see how it goes and bring a little different format and presentation from what I normally bring. All right. So most people are doing exactly what they saw their parents do with money or what they didn't see them do, right? And you may not have even put that together. One of the things that I ask my clients when we're just in our initial consultation is, what did money feel like in your house as a child? Because you may not even be aware. You may have seen your parents fight about money or fight about spending. It may be tension when bills come, or a parent who checked accounts obsessively or avoided them entirely. So to finish out a little more my initial story growing up after, you know, like I said, there was no financial foundation or positive financial foundation, and eventually all the businesses were lost, and which was a shame because it would have been an amazing legacy to really pass down to all the children. But once that happened, my parents divorced, and there was a lot of even more hyper awareness around money. Now, my mom's a single parent. She's got 3 kids she needs to take care of. And so her income obviously significantly shifted. So now she's depending on public assistance, food stamps and welfare and layaway. I remember, I don't even know if they still do layaway, but for those who don't know what layaway is, it's when you would go. I remember we would do this right before school shopping. Uh, all the stuff, all the clothes or whatever we would need, underclothes, even sometimes notebooks and stuff. It was mainly clothes. You would lay away with the company. You would go pick all the stuff that you wanted. The company will hold it. You would put down a down payment on it, and you would pay on it over time. And once you paid the full balance, then you were able to get the stuff that you had laid away. And so, um, as a kid watching that, I always was aware of what that looked like and what that felt like. It always felt super embarrassing, and it felt like a highlight that people just like a spotlight that people see, you know, um, when it was time to pay for groceries. This was back in the day when we did book food stamps, like paper food stamps, where you had the booklets that were color coded for the denomination of the money, not the EBT cards that you swipe today, but I would immediately go and hide in the store and go to the magazines when it was time to check out because I was so embarrassed because I'm watching my mom go through WIC payments, vouchers for my younger siblings, and then she's fumbling with this paperwork that sounds like it's just amplified, fumbling through these food stamp booklets, looking for the dollar amounts to be able to pay for the groceries, holding up the line. Your schoolmates might be in the same grocery store from the neighborhood, and it just felt so, so embarrassing. And my mom would be like, "You're walking around the store putting everything you want in this basket, but when it comes time to pay, now you're ashamed." Yes, I was very, very ashamed. So, um, what was never said about money. So the silence may have taught us that money's dangerous or shameful or something other people manage, not us. So these may not even have been real, um, what was really happening, but the way we interpreted these situations as children, right? Like I said, I interpreted a lot of shame and a lot of embarrassment and um, silence in that sense because, and then be just aware of the tension and anxiety that it would cause when it was time to get these layaway clothes or my grandparents sending money so that we could get the things that we needed for school. Wait until the last minute to get the Valentine's Day cards for the class, and they were the off-brand ones that were left, or you're not getting the newest Trapper Keeper. I'm really Trapper Keepers, oh my god, they were so but I never got the one I wanted because it just, you had to get what was left, and in hindsight, it didn't seem like that much money, but it was just building the trauma around money, and so it also comes from what we decided. So, children, as you know, if you've ever been around kids, they're just meaning makers. They make conclusions and draw conclusions and assumptions from everything they see because they don't have the logic or the experience to be able to process it and really like determine what's happening from what they actually feel. So the conclusions drawn about money before earning a dollar became the operating system that we now operate out of when we're dealing with money. And then what got passed down, not through conversations, but through energy, again, which what it felt like, what was felt but never named. Like I knew when the bills came because there was just this tension and uncomfortability or just nervousness in the house because my mom was stressed out and that emanated out loudly, even though she didn't say anything. And those patterns got passed down silently. And I picked up a lot of those things that I wasn't even aware of becoming an adult, kind of just saying, well, that's just how it is. That's just how I am. So, how our thoughts and beliefs shape everything. The beliefs were formed before the income. And they, again, they don't care how much you earn. So, you may have picked up cues that money's dangerous, or I'm not good with money, or rich people are greedy, or they only have that money because they steal and they rob from people, or I don't deserve more than the people around me, kind of a survivor's guilt, or you don't want people to think that you think you're better than them. So, you kind of keep yourself smaller, or it's not my place to talk about money. That's what other people do. Or money causes conflict or causes problems. And you would see that or think that it would make sense how some of these would manifest if these are the lessons that you interpreted about money in your family growing up. Every financial decision passes through this filter, whether we know it or not. So, let's talk about some of the feelings that show up around money. Again, it's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's just a quiet dread or a stomach drop or a chest tightening when you start to think about money. It may be a body response that you just can't explain, but you feel it. Anxiety, again, a stomach drop when you open your banking app or open your mail from the bank, or even when you know your balance is fine, you could still experience these anxieties. Or avoidance. You just don't open the statements, or you don't even check the accounts. The call you've been meaning to make. Maybe you've been meaning to get a financial advisor, or file your taxes, or look into getting a estate plan, a trust, and you just don't do it. You just avoid the conversation altogether because of what comes up in your body and your nervous system when you start to think about these things. You may have guilt. You may earn more than your family. I see that a lot with some of my clients. They're first time college graduates in their family, and they may earn two, three times more than their family or their parents ever have or ever will. And you feel guilty spending money on yourself, maybe, or saying no to someone who needs money because you may view or know that you have more money than them. So you feel guilty if you don't help them or give them money. You may have a freeze response where the big financial decision arrives and you just can't move, you can't do anything. Maybe not even because you lack the knowledge to do it, but because it just feels too high stakes, too much is at risk. I don't want to make the wrong decision. I'm just not going to do anything. And shame, again, the feeling that your money situation, whatever it is, reflects something about your worth, right? And that's what I was explaining that I felt like when my mom would go pay with food stamps, or when she would have to go to the welfare office. And I remember sitting one time in the parking lot. My mom had this very big, distinguishable bright yellow hoopty that everybody knew. And it was so embarrassing. So if that car was parked at the welfare office, you're only there at the welfare office for one thing. I remember being young and my mom going there, and of course I'm not going in, so I waited in the car. And I just happened to turn, and one of my classmates was in the back seat of his parents' car, slumped down, and we made eye contact, and it was just like, damn, like, you here, I'm here, like, but some reason it made me feel something about my self-worth, that I was less than, or I would see other classmates who had their parents, own businesses that were successful, and they drove Mercedes. My mom was riding around in this bright yellow hoopty, and it just felt embarrassing. There's a lot of shame that I tied to my personal self-worth and self-esteem. So I'm going to look at the I just keep checking to see if somebody pops in or has a question. But so 5 patterns that cost you the most when dealing with the trauma of money. And what's interesting about this whole subject or topic around the subject of money is that it's not compartmentalized, right? You may not just view this in regards to money. It may these types of um, ways that you deal or cope or handle situations, they may also spill over into your personal relationships or your intimate relationships. So I felt a lot of shame and self-worth issues around money, but that also spilled over into my own personal relationships until I was able to go through therapy and get aware of the patterns, etc. So hypervigilance is one of the five patterns. It's disguised as competence. So you may look excellent and may actually be excellent at managing what exists, but you're terrified of expansion. So you're really conservative and you take that conservative stance, and that costs you the opportunity for your money to compound and grow over decades while you're in this hypervigilance mindset. Again, avoidance, it may be disguised as too busy. You always have something going on, something more important. Your accounts go unchecked, conversations avoided. You just, a plan, it can't work if you won't look at it. So your plan's not working either. You may have compulsive giving, and that's disguised as generosity because it feels good to help, it feels good to give. But if you look at the math on $1,500 a month of unplanned giving, let's say, compounded over 20 years at 7%, that's almost $1 million. It's over a half $1 million that would just be gone, and the opportunity for that to grow if you were at a $1,500 a month unplanned compulsive giving disguised as generosity. You may have a self-sabotage where you get ready to hit your milestone. Maybe you want to hit 5,000 or 10,000 in your savings account or invest that much. Maybe you want to pay off a certain amount of debt, and then something happens where now you have to use that money for something else, or you feel like you do, and you just spend it and then you have to start all over. The pattern's always more powerful than the plan. If these patterns are running, you can plan to do something, but it's going to pop up and cause you to just repeat a cycle. Or the perfection paralysis. You're just waiting for the time to be right, for everything to be right. 5 years of waiting to invest, that could be $800,000 again. And with our $1,500 a month or even a few more a month compounding over time, you never get to that certainty. But starting can help you feel more comfortable in stepping out. But waiting and being paralyzed in that fear or uncertainty, it just is never going to get you there. You can't out earn it, right? A lot of people feel like they can. They feel like once I get this raise, I'm gonna do this, or once I get this bonus, they start planning out what they're gonna do. But if you could out earn it, then you wouldn't see the professional athletes or celebrities blow everything that they earn. So you can't out earn it. Income doesn't fix the problem. It's going to fund the problem. So the same thing you did at 40, $50,000, you're going to do at 100,000 unless you fix the problem. So spending to regulate stress at 60,000, again, it's still going to happen at 600,000. If you're avoiding your finances at 80,000, you're still going to avoid them when you hit 400,000. If you're self-sabotaging at one income level, you're going to do the same at the next one. And again, NFL and NBA players, other sports, they touch millions and they go broke, not because of the money, but because of what was never addressed underneath the money. The amounts change, the behavior doesn't. You got to address what's underneath first and then build the plan. So let's look at what healing actually looks like. You're not becoming a different person in the sense of just rearranging and changing your whole personality. You're actually the same person making different decisions and from a different place inside of yourself. So before, you might check your accounts 5 times a day from that anxiety feeling. But after, with healing, then you check once a week or once a month because you know and trust that what you'll find is okay. Before, you might manage everything alone, but after, you have a real team that actually follows, and you actually follow their guidance and work with them. You might just give out of guilt or reflexively, but after, you give intentionally with a plan that doesn't disrupt your own trajectory, right? It doesn't take away from your ability to save or invest, or you're not taking away from paying off your own debt to help somebody else out. Before, you might use your career as proof that finances are fine because you have this title or this income level. But after the healing, you look directly at the picture and you close those gaps of what's missing. And before, you might wait until you feel ready to invest. And then after, you're starting imperfectly and letting time do the work to make those changes. So the way that we do this differently at Black Wealth Financial, most financial advisors, they just start with the numbers, right? What are your numbers? How much money do you have? How much money do you have to invest? And that's where they're going to go from. Well, we start again trauma informed. We understand financial behavior is driven by emotional history, not just financial literacy. And we address both in the right answer. That's why I want to know, what did money feel like in your house when you were growing up? I'm a fiduciary, so we're legally required to act in your best interest, not just sell you products to meet a quota, but to actually serve you and do what's best in your best interest. The full picture first. Before we build the plan, we understand what's been getting in the way of the plan. The conversation that changes everything. And we do it in the right order. We address the thoughts, beliefs, and feelings underneath first. And as they come up, because sometimes they may come up as we're building the plan, as we're working and implementing the plan, and then we build the strategy. A plan on an unexamined foundation is not going to hold. That's why you'll make a decision to start something, to do something different with your money. And it's just a pattern. It's kind of like New Year's resolutions. You might do it for a little bit, you might be okay. And then 2 seconds later, it's the same thing once time happens, or once you get triggered, or once something pops up. So that's really the crux and overview of the trauma of money. Again, it's your thoughts, beliefs, and feelings around money and how they affect your behaviors, your patterns, your moves around money. And it's important to know that the pattern, it didn't start with you. Again, these are things that you may have picked up from your childhood or your caregivers, your parents, but it can end with you. The real conversation, it starts here. If you want to take a little deeper dive into your personal finances and trauma of money story, this is not right. Let me update this right here. Oh no. Okay, let's get this together. It's $29.99 plus shipping and handling. Okay, so you could book a free strategy call at getblackwealth.com. It's 45 minutes. We're going to just talk and chat. No pitch, no pressure. Just kind of understand where you are with your money, where you want to go. You can take a look and book that there. For the Love and Money, the game that I talked about and explained a little bit is 109 cards. You can get that at loveandmoneygame.com. And you can also visit the website at getblackwealth.com. And it's going to give you a bunch of all of our services, our resources, and you can book online there. If you want to connect with me on socials, I am at The Money and Me on Instagram, uh, Facebook, and Threads at The Money and Me. You can find me there. Again, hopefully this was insightful and you're able to see and recognize yourself in some of these patterns. I always say to give yourself grace. Don't beat yourself up for what you didn't know and what you weren't aware of, and maybe the patterns that have been affecting you and your money. You don't know what you don't know. The pattern didn't start with you, but it can end with you. I will see you on the next one.